Yeah.
Alabama lost. Alabama lost, guys. Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Forget all of the opening pleasantry stuff. You know the drill. Let's get down to business. Let's talk week 6. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. You seriously can't make it up. None of it makes sense. No one is safe. It's an unpredictable season of college football, guys. So forget what you know. Forget what you think or thought you know, because you don't. No one does. It is an unbelievable, unpredictable year of college football. It is a chaotic year of college football, so you might as well just sit back, relax, and enjoy the madness and enjoy the chaos. And let's dive into it right now. Let's dive in. Forget the pleasantries. We'll touch on the board later. Let's just dive in to the biggest upset of the year so far. Maybe one of the biggest upsets in recent memory. Number 1, Alabama losing on the road to Texas A&M 41-38. The Tide were 17.5-point underdogs for 17.5-point favorites going into this game. Alabama's first loss to an unranked team since 2007. They had won 100 straight games against unranked opponents. It was Nick Saban's first loss to a former assistant. First loss ever to a former assistant. Now he's 24-1. And we all remember what Jimbo Fisher said back in the summer, right? He said they were going to go out there and they were going to kick Alabama's ass. They were going to kick Nick Saban's ass. And they did it. He actually came through with it. Usually when you say something like that to Nick Saban, when you take a shot at Alabama like that, it's a death sentence. But Texas A&M actually did it when no one was giving the Aggies a fighting chance. You know, they were in the preseason, right? But this game lost all of its luster when A&M came into this game losing 2 straight games. They fell to Arkansas 2 weeks ago. And then last week, were upset at home to Mississippi State. They fell out of the rankings. They were playing with a backup quarterback in Zach Calzada. In the 2 games that they lost in a row, Texas A&M was held to under 300 yards of offense. But in this game against Alabama, they put up 379 yards and had 285 passing yards and 3 touchdowns from Zach Calzada, who was dealing in this game against what we thought was a stingy Alabama defense. A&M went in there and played their hearts out. The 12th man played a major, major role on Saturday night, and the Aggies pulled off, again, the biggest upset of this college football season. And they did it from, again, a great performance from Zach Calzada, and they did it from an unbelievable performance from their defense and special teams. You know, the Aggies forced 2 early turnovers, including an interception in the end zone. They led 17-7 at the end of the first. And the whole game, right? The whole game, everybody was just waiting for Alabama to wake up. The whole game, everybody was just waiting for Alabama to do what Alabama does. They start slow. Okay, that's fine. They're going to end up winning by 14 anyways. A&M, you had your fun. Let's see the real Alabama. And they never did. And it felt like the tide was literally turning when Alabama got that blocked punt in the third quarter. They got that block punt in the third quarter, cut the deficit to 24-17. It felt like all momentum was shifting to Alabama's side, and that was when the Tide were going to start coming back. But the ensuing kickoff, Texas A&M's Devin Achane returned the kickoff 96 yards for a touchdown, took all that momentum right back. A&M back up 14 points. Alabama battled back, took a 38-31 lead with 5 minutes left, and I think a lot of people thought the game was over at that point because there was no way with only 5 minutes left that Zach Calzada, of all people, was going to march all the way down the field and tie the game against Alabama, right? Wrong. He did. He tied it. And then the defense came up with a stop again. And Seth Small got put in position to win the game. It looked like the kick was going to sail wide to the left, but no. It hooked in there. And A&M walked away with a 41-38 victory. Unreal, guys. Absolutely unreal. No one saw that coming. No one really thought Alabama could lose to anybody with the exception of maybe Georgia in the SEC championship game or the college football playoff. Well, now the Tide have a loss on their record. And when you look at the rest of their season, guys, Alabama more than likely will win out in the regular season. But one loss to Georgia in the SEC championship game, and Alabama might not be making that Final Four. They might not be making the college football playoff. They have a blemish on their record, which means the SEC championship game, if they can even get there, again, there's a team like Ole Miss, Arkansas even with 2 losses, but I mean, we don't know what Alabama has in store the rest of the way. They lose again, things could get really, really interesting in the SEC West. But this game, guys, Was an unbelievable job by Jimbo Fisher, unbelievable job by Texas A&M, unbelievable job of the 12th man to shock the country when no one was giving them a chance. Now, it's rough for A&M. They're not, normally when you beat Alabama, you think you have a chance at maybe winning the West. You have a chance at maybe competing for a national title. Well, A&M with 2 losses, they're not in contention for that anymore. No playoff for them with 2 losses on their record. Not going to happen. But they shocked the country. They'll be back in the top 25. And the Aggies will now be a threat the rest of the year. Everybody kind of wrote them off. Not anymore. Huge, huge win for Texas A&M. It's just been that type of season, guys. Again, that's why we were so shocked to see it. That's why everybody was so shocked to see it. All the credit in the world to Jimbo Fisher and the Aggies. Credit to Alabama for battling back. The Aggies a better team on this day when no one thought they would be. So again, guys, that's how I wanted to open talking about the biggest game and the biggest upset of Week 6. Again, there were lots of them, lots of great games, lots of big upsets, lots of close moments. Before we dive into the rest, take a look at the big board real quick. 22-6 in Week 6, 78.6%, not too bad. We'll take it. Brings our overall record to 223-53 on the year. So if you've been following us and been using our picks, been using our money line picks, you're hitting over 80% of your bets. You're hitting over 80% of your money line bets, and we have a handful of upsets in there, quite a bit actually. So looking pretty good. Always have hit 77% or better, and we will again this year against the spread in Week 6, killing it in Week 6. 7-3, major bounce back week for us. Didn't look too hot in Week 5. We said, don't worry, we'll bounce back. We did. 7-3, 33-30 on the year, 52.4%. Well on our way to reaching our goal of at least 55%. Well on our way to remaining one of the best marks. This one is, and we will be by season's end as well, one of the best marks in the entire country. Again, we beat out over 80% of the national analysts. If you have not signed up for the expert picks, you might as well want to. You certainly missed out if you didn't this last week. Hop on now. It's a year-long subscription, and you can get those NFL picks along with it. So 7-3 isn't enough to bring you on. I don't know what is. We're getting hot, and we're only going to stay that way. So let's take a look at the rest of the games, guys. We'll go through them relatively quickly. Let's take a look at the early games. I know Alabama A&M was later on. We're going to go backtrack now. We're going to start with those 11 o'clock games on Saturday. Let's start with maybe the best game of the day. Number 17, Ole Miss, and number 13, Arkansas. The Rebels taking down the Razorbacks 52-51. 1,287 yards of offense in Oxford, guys. Arkansas, 350 rushing yards. Ole Miss, 324 rushing yards. A game that featured 5 lead changes in the fourth quarter alone. Unbelievable game between Arkansas and Ole Miss, guys. Again, and we said that was maybe an opportunity to see who's the second best team in the West, right? Ole Miss just lost to Alabama last week. Arkansas, of course, has yet to play them. But Ole Miss only 1 loss on their record, right? To Alabama. Alabama now has a loss on their record. Arkansas has 2, but if crazy things happen where Ole Miss slips up again somewhere, Arkansas maybe beats Alabama later on in November, you could see this wacky scenario in the West where we're going to have to go through a bunch of tie-breaking scenarios to see who wins that division. Again, it's a long ways out. Odds of that happening very slim. But it could happen now that Alabama has lost to the Aggies. But this game, guys, down in Oxford truly was unbelievable. Matt Corral played out of his mind. KJ Jefferson played out of his mind. If you loved offense, this was a game for you. If you loved defense, you would have hated it. Because the defense for both teams was practically non-existent. What probably would have been better for both teams had the defense had just not been on the field, period. Because that's basically what it was like. It was basically like having no defense. Arkansas, guys, give them credit. After Matt Corral hit Braylon Sanders on a 68-yard touchdown pass with 1:07 left to take that touchdown lead, Arkansas battled all the way back, drove all the way down the field, scored the game-winning touchdown or the game potential tying touchdown as time expired, but chose to go for 2. And as I'm watching that game, I don't disagree with Arkansas going for 2. And the Razorbacks were not going to win that game in overtime. They couldn't stop the Rebels. But the play call for the Razorbacks was very, very poor. It was a very poor play call on the 2-point conversion for Arkansas. Really anything other than what they called probably would have been better for the Razorbacks. Had it worked, obviously it would have been great. Had it not, at least they would have known they'd gone down trying their best because that 2-point conversion play was absolutely horrendous. A horrible call. Everybody in the stadium knew it was coming. Ole Miss got the stop, though. That's all that matters. And they escaped with that 1-point victory. Unreal game in Oxford. Another unreal game in Dallas. Number 6, Oklahoma, taking down number 21, Texas, 55-48. Guys, this was a game that you thought was over at the end of the first quarter. Maybe you thought it was over at halftime. Maybe you turned it off, and then when you saw the score later on while you were watching another game, you said, holy crap, I got to get back to this game. Because Texas was beating Oklahoma 28-7 at the end of the first quarter. They were up 14-0 on Oklahoma less than 2 minutes into the game. The Longhorns led 38-20 at halftime. They were up by 18 points at halftime, and I'm sorry for anyone that took Texas against the spread. We did not. We picked Texas to win. We did not take them against the spread. They were 3.5-point underdogs. And when you're up 18 at halftime and getting points, you think, man, we're looking good. Well, after halftime, Oklahoma outscored Texas 35-10 in the second half, even though they benched Spencer Rattler for the second straight year in this Red River Showdown. Second year in a row that Spencer Rattler was benched in the Red River Showdown. And it paid off for him. Oklahoma won last year in 4 overtimes. They won this year, all in credit due to Caleb Williams. 212 passing yards, 2 touchdowns in replacement of Rattler. Had 88 yards and a touchdown on the ground as well. Kennedy Brooks played lights out, over 200 rushing yards for him, including the game winner from 33 yards out with 3 seconds left. Oklahoma, guys, was just lining up for a field goal, I think. Looked like they were just going to line up for a field goal, and the hole just opened up. Kennedy Brooks took off 33 yards out with 3 seconds left, and Oklahoma wins by 7. That was kind of one of those bad beats there had you taken Texas. But this game featured over 1,100 yards of total offense. Oklahoma had 339 rushing yards, battled back from 21 points down, the largest comeback in the Red River Showdown. Again, you can't help but feel for Texas. Oklahoma, again, finding themselves with their 5th win against an FBS opponent by single digits, by 1 possession. Probably, I don't want to say they shouldn't have won this game because Texas ultimately blew it, but it was a game where everybody was writing out the Sooners. Everybody thought it was over. So credit to Lincoln Riley, credit to the Sooners for continuing to fight and battling back. Texas, you got to figure something out. But this game, just as crazy as the Ole Miss Arkansas game, again, truly unbelievable. Truly unbelievable. What a win for Oklahoma, who might find themselves back into the top 4. They're still undefeated, guys. Yeah, they're winning all those games by 1 possession. Who cares? There's a big fat 0 in the loss column. Real quick, number 2, Georgia, who will now be the number 1 team in the country, dominates again, beating number 18 Auburn in the Deep South's oldest rivalry, beating them at Jordan-Hare Stadium 34-10. Georgia only led 17-3 at halftime, but really pulled away in that second half. And really, to me, it was Ladd McConkey's 60-yard touchdown from Stetson Bennett that broke it open. A little late, midway through the third quarter, Stetson Bennett, beautiful ball to McConkey, put him up by 21. That's when you knew it was over. Auburn was keeping it within reach. 14 points within reach, 1 touchdown, 1 possession game. But when Georgia hit that deep ball, got up by 21, you knew Auburn was done. That, to me, was the nail in the coffin. Stetson Bennett continuing to play lights-out football and replacement of JT Daniels, who still has not been able to get healthy. And this Georgia defense, guys, yes, I know they allowed 10 points. How devastating, but they only allowed their 2nd touchdown of the year. This Georgia team is good, guys. They're the number 1 team in the country because Alabama just lost. And I would have said even if Alabama had won over Texas A&M, they only would have won by maybe a touchdown, maybe a field goal. I would have moved Georgia up to number 1 anyways because this team is the best team in the country, and they continue to prove that week in and week out. How about Boise State upsetting number 10 BYU? So we saw a couple teams in the top 10 lose. Alabama, of course, being one of them. BYU being another. We'll touch on the other one next. But BYU, a team that some people thought shouldn't have been ranked as high as number 10. That showed on Saturday. And again, say what you want. Say BYU was riddled by injuries. Jaron Hall was back at quarterback, and they committed 4 turnovers. So I don't really want to hear anything about injuries, guys. BYU led 10-0 in the first quarter, but were outscored 26-7 the rest of the way, including allowing 23 unanswered after getting up by 10. They had back-to-back fumbles in the first half that resulted in 14 points for Boise State. 4 turnovers total all the day. You're not going to win a game. It's going to be very hard to win a game when you commit 4 turnovers like that and when your opponent commits 0, like Boise State did. Boise State was outgained by 101 yards, still found a way to win that game. A Boise State team that was getting torched on the ground all year long held BYU and Tyler Algier to just 111 rushing yards on the day. Keep in mind, this game was in Provo. So expect BYU to tumble in the rankings because Boise State was, 2-3 entering this game? But a lot of credit to Andy Avalos, the brand new head coach for Boise State, for getting the job done for his Broncos, winning over a top 10 opponent and getting back to 500. Arguably the biggest game of the day, Number 3, Iowa, and number 4, Penn State, guys. That was a huge Big Ten matchup, one that we expected to be low scoring, one that we expected to be a defensive slugfest, one where we said we'd be shocked if either team eclipsed 24 points. Hit the nail on the head on that one. Iowa taking down Penn State 23-20 at Kinnick Stadium. Low scoring game. Iowa just 305 total yards. Penn State just 287 total yards. But this Iowa defense, guys, once again, they came to play. I would put it as Georgia is the best defense in the country. Iowa has the second best defense in the country. They are ridiculous, guys. They forced 4 turnovers on the Nittany Lions. They trailed 17-3 in the second quarter. And I said, look, I'm a little nervous for Iowa here. They're down 14 points for a team that really hasn't had to come from behind at all this season. For a team that we really haven't had to see much offense from, relying so much on their defense. You almost felt that in a game that we knew was going to be so defensively dominated that Penn State being up by 14 might end up being enough. Keep in mind, though, Penn State loses their quarterback in Sean Clifford. Sean Clifford went down with an injury, and the game changed drastically for Penn State. Not to take anything away from Iowa. They forced 4 turnovers, and they were consistently pinning Penn State deep in their own territory. 5 drives started inside their own 20. I believe 5 of them actually started inside their own 10. So Iowa was doing a great job of forcing Penn State into a horrible field position and going up against that Hawkeyes defense. It was going to be difficult to get out of that position and to get down there and score some points. And once Taquan Roberson went in for Sean Clifford, after he got in after his injury, Penn State only mustered 50 yards of offense on 46 plays. So the game changed drastically. And Penn State consistently punting the ball from the shadow of their own end zone set up Iowa with solid field position. And later in the fourth quarter, Spencer Petras hitting Reganey on the 44-yard touchdown pass. That is what ended up being the dagger, putting Iowa ahead for the first time in the game. The defense held strong, and the Hawkeyes ended up winning 23-20. They're not, back in the, early in the week, I said this game would solidify who would be the number 3 team in the country because we didn't expect Alabama to lose. We didn't expect Georgia to lose. The Hawkeyes are now the number 2 team in the country. And don't expect Penn State to fall much in the rankings either. Heck of a fight on the road after losing their starting quarterback. Big fight for Penn State. All the credit in the world for James Franklin. And I will say one last thing on Iowa. They almost feel like a playoff lock at this point. They have a solid resume. The remaining opponents on their schedule have a combined record right now of 15-19. No ranked opponents left on their schedule, guys. Could look bad for a college football playoff resume, or it could look good for Iowa to run the table, finish undefeated, play maybe Penn State again in the Big Ten Championship, Ohio State, Michigan State, we don't know who. But the Hawkeyes are looking very good, and their resume got a lot stronger with this win over Penn State. And the final game we'll talk about here, sticking in the Big Ten, number 9 Michigan surviving a scare at Nebraska, defeating the Cornhuskers 32-29, a game that was all over the place. Michigan leading 13-0 after 1, trailing 22-19 entering the fourth quarter. We saw 3 fourth quarter lead changes, but Michigan finally going up for good with Jake Moody's 39-yard field goal with just a minute 24 left. Guys, Michigan, that was a big scare for them. We knew that was going to be a big test for them. The 9th-ranked team in the country was only favored by about 3 points entering the game at Nebraska. Huge win for Jim Harbaugh, guys. His team's undefeated. And this is a team that, yes, is a college football playoff contender. Yes, is a Big Ten title contender. And right now, after the Penn State loss, and depending on what happens to Sean Clifford, how serious his injury is, you could make the argument in the case that Michigan is the best team in the Big Ten East. Ohio State seems to be getting better. Michigan State, absolutely the real deal. But Michigan, not far behind them, if at all. The Big Ten East might be the best division in all of college football. Michigan continuing to prove that, along with its counterparts on Saturday night. Last few headlines we'll talk about. Number 15, Coastal Carolina beating Arkansas State 52-20. Why is it a big deal? It's not, except that the Chanticleers put up 685 yards of offense by themselves. 685 yards of offense in one game. Unreal performance from Jamie Chadwell and the Chanticleers. Florida State taking down North Carolina for the second win in a row. Not just second win in a row of the season after starting 0-4, but their second win in a row over North Carolina after upsetting the Tar Heels last year. Didn't think they'd come into Chapel Hill and get it done. North Carolina, what happened? This team was supposed to be loaded, a playoff dark horse. They're 3-3 and just lost at home by 10 to Florida State. Number 14, Notre Dame survived Virginia Tech 32-29 with a game-winning field goal with 17 seconds left. So the Fighting Irish still only one loss on their record. Only one coming to Cincinnati. Still have slight hopes for the college football playoff. Number 16, Kentucky annihilates LSU 42-21, setting up an undefeated 6-0 showdown in Athens. Number 1, Georgia against a potential top 15 Kentucky team. 6-0, guys. Number 1, Georgia and Kentucky, both undefeated. Maybe the SEC East Championship again. We saw that back in 2018. We're seeing it again now in 2021. Will the outcome be any different? And can Kentucky maybe give Georgia their toughest test of the year? We'll have all that analysis for you later on in Week 7. So there you go, guys. Unbelievable Week 6. What do you expect? The number 1 team goes down. The number 4 team goes down. The number 10 team goes down. Number 13 goes down. Number 9 barely survives. 6 total teams go down the top 25. Tons of crazy upsets, tons of close scares. We used to think it was Alabama, Georgia, and everybody else. Well, now it's Georgia and everybody else. The road to the playoff, guys, is going to get crazy. The road to bowl eligibility for teams. The road to the New Year's Six is crazy. The rest of this college football season is going to be absolutely ridiculous, guys. It's going to be unreal. It's already been chaotic. Week 6 proved that. The wildest week by far. I thought Week 5 was. Week 6 said, hold my beer. I'm going to be better than you. I'm sure Week 7 is going to do the exact same. So just kick back, relax, enjoy the chaos, because that's what college football is all about. And after the 2020 season that we had to deal with, we deserve this. We deserve this. Get ready, guys. It's only going to get more fun from here. So, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, and share our videos. Of course, check out everything down in the description below as well. Go sign up for those expert picks. Again, 7-3 this week. If you utilized them, congratulations. Hope you came out ahead. You should have. If you haven't signed up yet, you need to. It will be one of the best decisions you make all season long. One of the best marks right now in the entire country. It's been one of the best marks in the country for the last 3 years. It's going to be again by season's end. So make sure you sign up today so you don't miss out on our Week 7 picks and anything else we have to offer the rest of the year. Again, expert picks, thegridironexpert.com, link down in the description. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on The Gridiron Expert.